Hello class 6 students, today I have come up with a new chapter from your geography, chapter 3 rotation and revolution from your social science book Cambridge Social Sciences. In this chapter we will study about meaning of rotation and effects of rotation, then meaning of revolution, effects of revolution, solstice and equinox. The learning objectives of this chapter is to understand what causes the day and night, to understand what causes seasons, and to learn the relation between equinox and solstice. So students, have you ever wondered what causes the day and night, or why weather conditions keep changing all the time? Why are polar regions always very cold and equatorial regions very hot? These extremities in the climatic conditions are due to the movements of the Earth. In the previous chapter, we read about the movement of planets in our solar system, and in this chapter we will study about the two movements of the Earth, that is rotation and revolution, and we will also learn about their causes and effects. The Earth spins on its axis while orbiting around the Sun in an imaginary path. The motion, which involves one complete spin on its axis in 24 hours, is called rotation. Spin means to turn round and round. And the motion of the Earth, which involves one complete orbit around the Sun, is called revolution. Together, these two movements affect the temperature and the weather, and thus we experience the season. Now first come rotation. The circular motion of the Earth on its tilted axis from west to east is called rotation. The Earth spins like a top at the speed of 1670 km per hour, rotating freely on its axis. It takes the Earth roughly 24 hours to complete one rotation, which makes a single day and night. Effects of the Earth's rotation. As the Earth rotates on its own axis, the part which faces the Sun experiences daylight, while the part which is away from the Sun is dark and experiences night. As the Earth is tilted at a certain angle, a part of it comes under a shadow. The shadow falls in such a way that a line seems to separate the day from the night. This line is called as, or is known as, the line of illumination. Since the Earth rotates in an anti-clockwise direction, the Sun rises in the east and sets in the west. The length of the day is measured from the sunrise to sunset. The Earth's rotation on its tilted axis causes the Sun's rays to fall at different angles on its surface. So, when the Sun shines directly overhead or its rays are perpendicular at a place, it experiences noon. Noon marks midday or 12 noon. From the position onwards, the rays of the Sun begins to get slanted, and in few hours there comes the evening. Just as the last rays of the Sun fade away below the horizon, there comes the dusk. Dusk means slight light when the Sun is setting. When the Sun sets below the horizon, we experience darkness, and it is called as night. As the first rays of the Sun begin to emerge from beneath the horizon, there comes the dawn. Dawn means the beginning of the light as the Sun rises. When the Sun rises above the horizon, its bright rays bring in the morning, and the darkness of the sky vanishes. Since the Earth's axis is tilted, it causes the different lengths of days and nights and different seasons. In summer, days are long and nights are short, but in winter, days begin to get shorter. Now comes the revolution. The motion of the Earth as it travels along an imaginary path around the Sun is called revolution. One complete revolution of the Earth around the Sun takes at least 365 days and 6 hours. One calendar year has 365 days, so the 6 hours of 4 consecutive years is added to make one full day, and this extra day is added to the month of February every 4 years. The year that has 366 days is known as the leap year, and in the leap year, the February month is having 29 days. Seasons. Throughout the course of its journey around the Sun, the Earth experiences constantly changing of seasons. The seasons that we experience throughout the year are caused by the Earth's revolution and the tilt of its axis. As the Earth travels around the Sun on its imaginary path, the side leaning towards it keeps on changing. When the northern hemisphere leans toward the Sun, it receives more and more light and heat, and it makes it warmer. During the same time, the southern hemisphere, which is tilted away from the Sun, gets lesser amount of heat and light and makes it colder. The result of this is that the northern hemisphere enjoys summer, and during the same period, the southern hemisphere experiences winter. And 6 months later, the position of the Earth becomes opposite, and the southern hemisphere that time enjoys summer as it tilted towards the Sun, and the northern hemisphere enjoys winter because it is away from the Sun. Solstices and equinoxes. Now first is, what is overhead sun? When the Sun's rays fall perpendicularly on the Earth's surface, it is known as overhead sun. The Sun is overhead between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn and crosses the equator twice a year. As the Earth's tilt shifts from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere, during this course of its movement, solstices and equinoxes occur and we experience change in seasons. Solstices. The term solstice originates from 2 Latin words. The first is sol, which means sun, and the sistere, which means to stand still. Summer solstice occur around 21st June in the northern hemisphere and marks the longest day of the year. On this day, the Sun is overhead at the Tropic of Cancer. On the same day, the southern hemisphere experiences winter solstice, marking the shortest day of the year. And 6 months later, on December 22nd, the Sun is overhead at the Tropic of Capricorn. During this time, the southern hemisphere experiences summer solstice. And this day is the longest day in the southern hemisphere, while in northern hemisphere it is the shortest day of the year. Equinoxes. The term equinox is derived from the Latin words equus, which means equal, and nox, which means night. An equinox occurs when the Sun is overhead at the equator. During an equinox, days and nights are totally equal all over the earth. Equinoxes occurs twice a year and generally around on March 20 and September 22nd. Spring or vernal equinox occurs around 21st March in the northern hemisphere, which marks the beginning of the spring season. On this day, the sun rays falls directly on the equator and there is equal day and night all over the world. The spring season is followed by summer, and at the same time the southern hemisphere experiences autumn equinox, which is followed by the winter season. Autumn equinox occurs around September 23rd in the northern hemisphere, followed up by the winter season, and during the same period southern hemisphere experiences spring equinox, which is followed by the summer season. Now, what are the things we have learned from this chapter? Let's quickly recall the important points. The earth has two motions, that is rotation and revolution. The earth rotates on its axis from west to east, which causes day and night. The tilt of the earth's axis causes variation in the length of days and nights. The earth takes about 365 and 1/4 days to complete one revolution around the sun. The time taken by the earth to complete one revolution is called a year. The revolution of the earth causes seasons. Summer and winter solstices mark the longest and shortest days of the year respectively. During an equinox, days and nights are always equal all over the earth. The concept map of this chapter is first is rotation. The meaning of rotation. Rotation is the circular motion of the earth on its tilted axis from west to east. The earth completes one rotation in about 24 hours. It rotates in an anti-clockwise direction. Effects of rotation. Rotation of the earth causes the day and night. It also causes the intervening periods of dawn and dusk. The tilt of the earth's axis causes variation in the length of days and nights. The anti-clockwise direction of the rotation causes the sun to rise in the east and to set in the west. It gives the earth its geoid shape. Revolution. Meaning of revolution. The motion of the earth around the sun is called revolution. It completes one revolution around the sun in 365 days and 6 hours. The 6 hours of 4 consecutive years is added to make one full day, which is added to the month of February every 4 years. The year that has 366 days is known as leap year. Effects of revolution. Seasons. Revolution of the earth and the tilt of its axis causes seasons on earth. Spring, summer, autumn and winter are the different kinds of seasons. Variation in length of day and night. Equator experiences equal days and nights all through the year. As we move towards the poles, days become longer in summers and shorter in winters. Poles have 6 months of continuous day and night. Solstice and equinox. Summer solstice, June 21st, longest day of the year. Sun is overhead at the Tropic of Cancer. Winter solstice, December 22nd, shortest day of the year. Sun is overhead at the Tropic of Capricorn. Spring or vernal equinox, March 20th. Sun rays falls directly on equator and there is equal day and night all over the world. Spring season in northern hemisphere. Autumn equinox, September 22nd. Sun rays fall directly on equator and there is equal day and night all over the world. Autumn in northern hemisphere. So students, hope you have understood the things that I taught in this chapter. Thank you and have a good time.